Growing up in America, I have had at least one unit on the American Revolution every school year since second grade. Over the years, I've accumulated a lot of knowledge about this war. Today, I'd like to share my knowledge about the American Revolution with you. So today, we'll discuss the reasons leading up to the Revolution, some major events during the Revolution, and the aftermath of the Revolution. I have studied this for almost 10 years in school, and I have thoroughly researched this prior to this speech. So some reasons leading up to the Revolution. During the 1700s, the British Parliament began to tax the colonists. While doing so, they didn't allow the colonists to have any representation in their parliament, which got the colonists started up, and they came up with a slogan, "No taxation without representation." Another reason that led up to the war was the Boston Massacre. On March 5th of 1770, some armed British soldiers killed 5 men. This occurred because a group of patriots began to throw objects at the armed soldiers, and they began to shoot back at them. This event was publicized by patriots and revolutionists. Another reason were the several acts that were imposed by the king. For example, the Quartering Act. The king forced the colonists to house soldiers, like let them live in their house, feed them, give them anything that they need, but they weren't paid for it, and it was not a consensual thing. They were forced that upon them. The Townshend Act, which placed several taxes on imported goods, which the colonists had to buy and pay for in order to survive and, keep the jobs. This really stirred up the colonists. Some major events during the Revolution was the Declaration of Independence, the signing of this document. It was a document to proclaim America independent from Britain. It was written by Thomas Jefferson. It declared all men created equal and that all men have certain unalienable rights. So the Declaration of Independence states that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Another event during the war was the Siege of Yorktown, also known as the Battle of Yorktown. This is when the American Army forced the British Army to surrender in Yorktown, Virginia. It ended the actual fighting part of the war, but it did not end the war officially. What officially did end the war was the Treaty of Paris. It was signed by representatives on both the British and the American side. It was signed in Paris. The British were forced to acknowledge the Americans as independent. It also, that they were separate from Britain, and it also granted the U.S. a significant amount of land. Some aftermath of the war was the colonists were obviously independent of the crown completely. They wrote their own constitution. They started to create their own government, how they wanted it, how they pictured it. Because they were creating their own constitution and their own government, they now had power and representation in that government. So there were no taxes going on without the Americans' approval of it. Overall, this war was extremely important to American history. So let's recap. So we went over, number 1, the reasons for the war. Number 2, some events during the war, some major events. Number 3, some events, the aftermath of the war. And that's about it.